I think we're ready, Greg.
All right, thank you. So let's go ahead and good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call our first and hopefully last virtual Stevensville Planning and Zoning Board meeting to order. Megan, how are you? Do you want to do roll call?
No, Greg, you're so good at it.
All right, I'll go ahead and do roll call. Councilman
I am here,
Michelson.
Here, Greg.
Thank you. Megan's here. Dan Ritter.
Here.
And I am, of course, here. John Kellogg has recused himself tonight due to a conflict of interest. So our next order of business is the approval of the minutes for January 27th of this year, 2020. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Bob?
I have. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the January Planning and Zoning meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of January 27, 2020 of the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Is there any public comment on that motion? Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
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 It's unanimous. Do we have any unfinished business? No unfinished business? All right, under new business, we have a discussion decision on a recommendation on approval with conditions or denial of a subdivision application for Burnt Fork Estates. There is a lot of moving parts to this. And that we've received a lot of public comment and we'll take a lot.
Greg, you're muted.
Austin.
Technical difficulties.
Greg, I think you muted yourself. There you go.
I think you muted yourself,
Is my
Greg.
wife around here somewhere? All right, I don't know where I muted myself, but we've had a lot of public comment. We're going to take a lot of public comment. I don't think there's any possible way we can do this in one meeting and allow the public to meaningfully participate in the meeting. So we will have multiple meetings, and there is some new information that has come up, some new material in the application has come up, and I think I'll go ahead and let Brandon speak briefly on the staff side of this. Brandon?
Sure, one moment here. Yeah, so the staff report was compiled by HDR Engineering, who works on behalf of the town as our engineer. That staff report was based primarily off of the first submittal we received on the subdivision. On Friday, we received a secondary submittal with updated information that came from staff meeting with the developers, the department heads, and our engineers here at Town Hall. And so they obviously changed some things in the submittal that address some pieces of the staff report. So we would like the opportunity to revise the staff report if the Planning and Zoning Board will entertain that and schedule a meeting into the future.
Thank you. Discussion from the Planning and Zoning Board.
Yeah, can I ask, is that the new information you talked about, Brandon, something that we haven't actually seen?
No, it is part of the
Staff report?
submittal that is uploaded on the website, Megan.
It is.
So you all got the submittal at the same time we did here at Town Hall. But at that time we were, still finalizing the first staff report and didn't have an opportunity in time for this meeting to amend that.
Thank you.
Sounds like a reasonable way to go about it. So I don't have issues with it.
I don't have any issue with it either. I think more information is better, and hopefully we can still use this meeting right now to ask a bunch of questions and get as much information as we can.
I'm okay with it, Greg.
Okay, good. I think since you came in Friday, which is not quite a week ago, I think in order to allow and provide the public the opportunity to meaningfully participate in this discussion and decision, I think it's a good thing to schedule subsequent meetings. And while we're on that topic, would someone like to propose a future meeting date?
Boy, that's always fun.
Everybody's jumping on that one.
Yeah, just to narrow it down, the rest of the month, I can't make it work. It'll have to be in October for me.
Okay, October is good for me.
Same here.
Megan,
Yeah, depends on the day. So pick some days.
how about the
It
7th?
looks pretty good. 7th works for me.
Dan,
Works for me.
Bob,
I'm fine with that, Greg.
Andy?
Yeah, we had offered, I believe, an extension to the town and concern about their deadline. And based on the new information and the augmented or amended application, I feel it's probably the right thing to do to hold most of that conversation until everyone's had a chance to digest it. The staff report's been updated and that sort of thing. So we would definitely like to defer to a time that that staff report's been made available, which is still sort of pending. I guess we don't know exactly when that's going to be completed. And then any kind of notice that you guys need to do either for this concern of public or public hearing question that's arose too. So we just want to make sure everything's legitimate and following protocol.
Thank you. Brandon, does the 7th work for you and the staff?
Yeah, I don't see any conflicts at this time with that date.
Okay.
Greg,
And we'll
can I
have
ask
plenty of time. Go
an
ahead,
off-topic
Megan.
question that just came up in my head? Is this being recorded, Brandon? I'm trying to
Okay.
take as fast as I can, but I'm curious what I'm going to have to fall back on for notes.
There is a video recording of the meeting. Yes, Megan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg.
No problem. I don't blame you. All right. So as far as the staff report, I just don't believe HDR is prepared to give us an updated staff report. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's why we're asking for some time to revise that with the new submittal.
Sorry.
Bless you. All right. So I guess this would be an opportunity for the developer or their consultant, Andy, to give us their report if they'd like.
I think I would really rather defer that to a conversation down the road at that future meeting when staff gives a presentation and we can augment that and answer questions at that time, honestly.
Okay.
Does that mean you'd like to defer all questions, public and questions?
I personally think it's the best because I think there is misinformation and there's updated information that everyone may not have had a chance to look at. And I'm afraid we could spend time dispelling things that may be already amended or corrected and updated information that people haven't seen. Myself, but I guess that's up to you guys. Certainly, you know, you'll have a public comment section in your agenda and other things. So how you want to address those comments as they may come in, I'd certainly defer it to the board's discretion.
Bob, Greg, and Dan, what do you think?
Well, we're going to take public comment no matter what. So, Dan?
Yeah, there's no use plowing this ground and having to replow it with the, so I think that we should wait.
Greg?
Bob?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think if the public's just doing public comments, they're not really asking questions, I wouldn't think. I would think they could be able to speak what they want to speak. Because usually in public comments section, nobody replies to that anyway. Am I correct?
I believe you're correct. Brandon, did you have something?
Well, and I'm fine with whatever direction you take. I just do have a question backing up to October 7th. Can the board please clarify for us the time of that meeting and whether or not you intend to hold a public hearing?
Board members? You guys-
I'm for a 7 o'clock meeting with public hearing.
I am for a 7 o'clock or anytime meeting. And completely depending on what happens, I am still not in favor of a public meeting in this community. I do not believe this community can safely gather heated conditions like this.
Dan?
I think that we should have the meeting on the 7th and take public comment, but leave the hearing part to the town council. There's no requirement that we have a hearing according to what I read today. Help clarify that if you need to be, Brandon, but I think that we should continue with our regular board meetings where we ask for public comment, but we don't get into the public hearing thing and let the council do that section.
How does that stand, Brandon, in terms of our process?
So hopefully you all received a memo from the city attorney this afternoon speaking to the issue of whether or not the Planning and Zoning Board needs to hold a public hearing. His review of the code rendered that the Planning and Zoning Board, based on our town ordinances, is not required to hold a public hearing. However, if the board wants to hold a public hearing, they are able to do so. We just need to make sure that it's adequately noticed according to the codes that govern that. And that's part of the reason why I ask is to make sure that the administration follows whatever necessary protocols need to be followed in order to notice the public of either your meeting or your public hearing.
Thank you.
Bob, can you explain why you prefer a public hearing? We're not the decision makers. We simply make recommendations to the town council. And the way I read 73 or 76.3604 sub 7 and 73.6 or 76.3605, I believe we only have to have one public hearing, and that needs to be before the town council. So I hear that you're pretty adamant about wanting a public hearing. I just want to understand your reasoning for that. Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah, I guess it says in the planning and growth study on page 36 and 37 or 37 and 38 that the Planning and Zoning Board would hold a public hearing. And also it's in the study that Mr. Kellogg just presented to us. It states that the Planning and Zoning Board would have a public hearing. That's what I'm going on. Both places, the Planning and Growth and the study that was just given to us last week.
Okay. So would you have a problem with going a little earlier, like 6:30? Give us a little more time to take public comment?
No,
If we schedule a public hearing for October 7th at 6:30, do we have consensus that that would work for everybody? Bob?
that would work.
Megan?
Are Are you proposing a public meeting in the town hall with no safety requirements, separation, anything related to the current pandemic?
Right now, we're just talking about whether or not have a public hearing or a public meeting. As far as whether or not we can have virtual attendance at it, we haven't had that discussion yet.
I think it's
So it's 6:30 work for
from
you?
the public on this. So I would love to hear from the public about it.
Okay. Does 6:30 work for you?
Yes.
Great. Dan?
6:30 works for me.
Okay. Andy?
Yes, that would be fine for me. The only thing I kind of am observing is they're just making clear and sure everybody understands. There's the public meeting, there's a public hearing, and there's a venue or how you format. And I think sometimes those terms get mixed and integrated and people may be talking about various things. So just being cautious of that, I guess.
Yeah, maybe, Greg, maybe it'd be a good idea, at least for me, let's clarify the difference between a public hearing and our public comment that we always take at our meetings.
I wish we had an attorney here, but generally a public hearing requires notification, and it's in statute. A notice of a hearing must be given by publication in newspaper of general circulation in the county not less than 15 days prior to the date of meeting. To the subdivider, each property owner of record, property immediately, there's very specific guidelines and publication requirements where with a public meeting, you can schedule a meeting per your requirements within the local code. Typically it's 48 hours notice.
Okay, thanks for that.
Brandon, is that consistent with your understanding?
Yes, sir, it is. So public hearing, of course, we're going to notice it. There's a small expense associated with doing so. We also usually send out a mailing to do so. So we'll of course do that for the town council hearing. But we need to know if we need to do that for the planning and zoning board as well.
It seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but certainly all the neighbors that would get this mailing are very well aware of what's going on here already. So I don't know that the mailing is necessary here. In terms of putting it in the newspaper, well, we can or we can't. Turns out it's in the newspaper every week anyways. So why couldn't we just have a public meeting this time and get all the same comments without the expense of a hearing?
Yeah, that's my question as well. What's the difference in the outcome in terms of what we get as a board, information that we get on issues and concerns people have from our usual public meeting versus having a hearing? What do we get that's different, or is it just people want to have a hearing, so we'll give them a hearing?
Bob, do you want to respond to that?
I think it just shows more transparency to the public.
But it is no more transparent, I don't believe. Unless I'm missing something, unless there is something different in the two.
No, there really isn't much difference, I don't think, between a public hearing and public comments. A public hearing gives the public a right to speak out whatever they want to do about that agenda item, usually only, where public comments are usually about whatever you want them to be.
Okay.
Well, I think what we're talking about is the difference between a public hearing and a public meeting, right? Not public comment?
I think so.
Okay, and I think we can run the meeting however we want to run it. And I'd like to think that this body is very interested in hearing from the public, allow them to speak on the subdivision, and they could do that in a public meeting or a public hearing, in my opinion. And about the only thing we're changing, I think, is whether or not the town has to pay for legal notice. Because it's my understanding that or at least I would like to ask the town to make sure that mailing goes out to let the neighbors know when this meeting is. Whether it's a public meeting or a public hearing.
I agree.
Yeah.
So do we have consensus? We'll have a public meeting October 7th, 6:30 PM.
Correct.
Megan, you agree to that? And Dan, you agree to that as well, right?
Pending a discussion on the venue, correct?
Right, that's next.
Okay, yep, I agree.
So how would you like to lead that conversation, Megan?
How would I like to lead the public meeting that we're proposing on the 7th?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand you would prefer to do it virtually.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I would. I mean, I wouldn't. The short answer is no. I would not prefer to do it virtually. I prefer to do it in person. And in the current situation, I would prefer if we could do it in person with very cognizant safety precautions being taken by everyone, 6 feet apart, everyone wearing a mask, not around your chin, not around part of your mouth, but correctly, and being respectful and responsible to everybody around them. If that could happen, I would be all about an outdoor public meeting. Can you guarantee that?
I can't guarantee that, if that's what you're asking. How about you, Bob?
No, I couldn't guarantee it either that would happen unless it was at a larger venue where we could socially distance everybody. But the current status, whether at the library or at town hall, I don't think would work.
Mayor, did you have something?
Well, I did want to just explain, or at least make you aware of some things we're working on with the town council to get the town council back into into in-person meetings. It's obviously a very dynamic and hot button issue in our community. Our hope is to return to in-person meetings on September 10th. We're currently working through, I'm currently kind of playing the middleman where I'm working with each council member to ensure that their concerns of an in-person meeting are addressed satisfactorily for each person, so that if we can reach a compromise and we can reach reasonable measures to keep everyone safe, then we can go back to those meetings. So we're currently in that process, and my hope is we can have that completed by hopefully tomorrow, so we can announce that we're back to in-person meetings next week. That our plan, if we can go back to in-person meetings, is to implement at this time to implement social distancing, and to require that masks are worn until you are seated and distanced from people, and the distancing applies to staff, the board, and the public, to everyone in the room. We realize that there is a capacity issue, but I think we're going to have a capacity issue no matter what building we utilize, that we have readily available at our disposal, that we can easily set up a meeting in, and still keep the live stream accessible to our folks who use it virtually. So right now our plan is to reinstitute meetings in the library room, which has double the capacity of our room here at Town Hall. And so, I can't say for sure tonight that the library room is available on October 7th. It appears on their calendar it is, and I can confirm that tomorrow for you. We're also taking some other measures with the town council where we'll be investing in some shields and other things to help with safety. October 7th is obviously a month away. It's hard to tell what the pandemic's going to look like then.
We just have to A question come in as to whether we could use the fire hall because it's larger. I do wonder, it seems like that library room is tiny for the amount of people that we might get for this meeting.
The fire station's a challenging venue largely because of the acoustics. We have to be sensitive to our live stream. We have hundreds of people who use our live stream, and the acoustics in that room do not lend itself well to the live stream. The other piece is we have to keep in mind ADA accessibility. We're required by law to make sure that whatever facility we use is accessible to everyone.
What about the school? I did speak to the school in Stevensville, and they had indicated they could work something out. And I think nothing was finite, but generally open to the idea.
So I guess from my perspective, you can hold your meeting wherever you want to hold your meeting. The town has been committed to providing things like live stream and virtual participation. I can't guarantee that those things will be available in any venue other than town hall or the library room. So take that for what it is. If you want to hold your meeting elsewhere, that is your decision to do, and we will notice it appropriately.
Hey, Greg,
Yes, Bob.
would you like to check into that school thing and see if they have all the capabilities, or do you want me to get a hold of Kathy Cook?
You want to go ahead and get a hold of Kathy? As a council member, I probably think it would be more efficient.
Okay, I could do that. And also one more thing. Would it be possible for like Megan and Dan, who don't feel comfortable being in the public, and I understand that, could it be possible if they did Zoom, if nothing else worked out, and the rest of us and the public would be able to participate in person?
How do you feel about that, Dan, Megan?
I really appreciate that, Bob. And I'd like to leave it up in the air to make that decision a little closer.
I mean, that's just an option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dan?
that would work for me. I mean, I'm also pessimistic that we can ensure that everyone has a mask on that enters the building. I just don't think in the politics that are going on right now that you would be able to ensure that unless you had law enforcement helping us out. And
Yeah, that was a concern I had too. I mean, there are a variety of beliefs around mask wearing, and I don't know how you would enforce that. I think realistically, I believe that we should be a body that upholds, the intelligent way to do things. And I would hope that if we do go to a public meeting, we can ensure that we will do that.
Hello, Greg.
Yes.
I just got a message from Vicki Motley. She said the school board does virtual and in-person meetings. They have microphones and a camera, and it is streamed live.
So I'd be supportive of having a meeting, if we can arrange it with the school, use their facility, which I think is a little larger to accommodate those that would like to attend, and still stream and have the virtual meeting going on simultaneously.
I agree.
Do we have concurrence?
that works for me.
I don't see an issue with that right now.
Okay. So we'll attempt to do a live meeting or an in-person meeting with virtual accommodations on October 7th at 6:30, tentatively at the Stevensville School, but location yet to be determined or verified.
Yes.
Do you think there's any way to out or almost request people RSVP, if you will, to figure out how many people there might be? And maybe not, but
My concern with that is we have I believe, a constitutional obligation to provide the public the opportunity to participate, and putting barriers in there to that participation, I think could sully the process significantly.
well, couldn't the argument be made that we are already putting a barrier there by saying that we're meeting in a building that has a finite, quote, socially distanceable capacity?
It's a reasonable argument. We can sure ask for people to RSVP, but I hesitate to tell somebody they couldn't come in if they didn't RSVP.
But at what point
That
do we tell people they can't come in because there's too many in already, and then we create a nightmare?
Does the town have a policy on social distancing? Mayor, Bob?
I think it goes by Bullocks. Brandon can clarify that.
Outright, no, I don't believe the town has a strict policy on social distancing. We are working with the council to establish some sort of ground rules for their meetings, but I think, the board has to govern its own meetings. And so, that would be up to you folks to decide what that policy is. Although there is, I think, language in Governor Bullock's directives in terms of what social distancing things need to be adhered to. So
I would guess Bob's right that, yeah, we would want to look to what for that.
I guess ultimately, I don't know if the pandemic really plays a role. I mean, it does, certainly. Don't think I'm downplaying it, but for example, the room here at Town Hall has a capacity with or without a pandemic. And when we exceed that capacity, people find alternative means to participate in the meeting, namely our live stream. So, that's just the reality. Sometimes the room is just too small, and you might have to schedule multiple meetings in order to hear everyone. While everyone does have an opportunity to come to every meeting, I think it would be considerate if folks would allow, everyone an opportunity to be heard at different meetings rather than using this every meeting for the same people.
I just lost my video.
Can you see us, Greg? We see you.
I can't see it. I can hear you.
We see you.
Oh, there.
Don't do anything crazy.
There it is. I am definitely not an IT person. Okay. So we will determine the capacity of the meeting space and to maintain social distancing requirement of 6 feet for the in-person portion. Those that are uncomfortable with that may participate via Zoom.
And all people, when they enter the building and until they are seated, and if they even stand up, will be masked correctly, right?
Is that the will of the board?
Well, that
Bob?
seems that seems to meet the CDC requirements. For instance, when you go into go into a restaurant, you're supposed to do that. So that seems to make some sense. Doesn't seem to be overly onerous in terms of requirement.
It's just like a restaurant, you're right.
I'm fine.
Bob?
I'm fine with that, Greg.
Okay. Everybody's computer making a weird noise?
It's in your head, I think.
No, that's usually wind blowing usually. All right, Megan, you're out of order for the first time tonight.
I'm out of order? What do you mean? What did I do? You've seen nothing yet.
All right, is there any public comment on the October 7th meeting at 6:30 requiring social distancing and masks while standing or coming in or out of your chair? Any public comment on that?
I don't see anyone's hands raised on the phone, Greg.
Okay. So we are still under new business and the discussion on the application for Burnt Fork Estates. I guess we can take public comment with the board's concurrence.
Oh, Greg?
Yes.
So these emails that I have here, should I read these? Because they're public comment.
So those emails go to all of us. You know that, right?
I do know that.
Okay.
And they should be put into the public record. But as far as reading them into the record, Brandon, Bob, where do you put your correspondence specific to public correspondence? Is it accessible online?
Yes, so as of right now, all the public comment we've received through the web form or the mail today has been posted on the meeting page for this meeting on our website. So it is accessible there. It's all been printed and it will be incorporated into the minutes of this meeting as well.
And I've read every one of them that's come to me, so there's no need, I don't think, to read them out loud. Unless there's some procedural need to do that.
I don't think we need to read them out loud.
And we did receive an email just shortly ago, not that long ago, a few minutes ago, from Sierra Hoffman, and she states she attempted to raise her hand 3 times on the phone at the beginning. Now the entire meeting is about how to silence us. This is crazy and unethical. And I just know if you raise your hand on the phone, you're not going to be called on until the chair calls for public comment of the meeting. And I'll let him know when he calls for public comment, I'll let him know that you're on the phone, but you have to wait until he calls for your comment before we're going to unmute you.
And we certainly do not want to suppress any public comment. I want to make that very clear. So if there are hands raised, Brandon, do you want to? Because I don't see raised hands on my screen.
There aren't any right now. We will see raised hands on our screen, and there aren't any right now.
Is Sierra still on the phone?
No.
I don't have a phone number to relate to what's called in.
It doesn't sound like it if she hasn't chimed in on the phone yet.
Is there any public comment? Okay, so just to capture for the umpteenth time, we're scheduling a meeting for October 7th, 6:30 p.m. tentatively at Stevensville School, implementing social distancing standards and a mask protocol for anytime you're not in your seat. And we will request, but not require RSVPs so we can anticipate that, and we anticipate having multiple meetings to accommodate all public comment. Does that capture what we've talked about tonight?
Yes.
That was a good summary, Greg. Thank you.
Yep, sounds good.
Is there any board comment?
I have a
Any
lot of,
board comment?
I will hold till the, till the appropriate time.
All right. Once again, we'll open for public comment from citizens. Is there any public comment?
There aren't any hands raised at this time. You may want to just give folks a minute.
Say, Greg,
Okay.
I'm not I've only participated in like one of these, but on my screen there says participants and it says 13. And if I click on that to a list of people and I recognize names, and then I see phone numbers with a phone and a slash through them. So I don't know if those people are in a queue somehow.
Means they're muted. They can't.
They're
So you
muted.
can just log in and listen.
Yeah, so they're muted. If they hit *9 on their dial pad, it
Okay.
raises their hand and then we can unmute. them.
Okay. All right. And sorry, it's just my ignorance of the meeting. I've only done one of these, so I
That
appreciate it.
prompts a good reminder, *9 will raise your hand and we'll take those in the order we receive them. So
Okay. Thank you.
So that was new to me. *9, if you're on the phone, push *9 and we will happily take your comments. One last call for public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there anything for the good of the order from board members?
What is the good of the order?
Anything you want to bring up before we go to our next meeting?
Only if the mayor would mind sharing the video with me at some point so I can do meeting minutes, and it will probably be in the next week and a half or so.
yep, Megan, expect a link tomorrow.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to
will-
adjourn.
I will second Bob's, who beat me to motioning to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify with aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.